This is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Olivia Calfee. Steve has the night off. The cause of an apartment building collapse in Davenport, Iowa is now under investigation, one day after part of a 6-story building came down Sunday afternoon. Officials say they have no reason to believe anyone is still inside, but rescue crews searched Monday just to be certain. CBS's Roxana Saberi has the latest from New York.
First responders in Davenport, Iowa are getting high praise for moving quickly when a section of a 6-story apartment building came crumbling down Sunday.
Because of the response and because of the concern for life by our first responders to get in the building knowing that that building was unsafe to help folks, because of that, they saved lives.
Overnight, search teams rescued an 8th person from the building that had 84 apartments and businesses.
It came down like an explosion, like a bomb.
Residents are grateful to have made it out.
And I'm 86 years old, so I'm very lucky and blessed again. Blessed to live this long and blessed to get out without injuries, but I have nothing now.
Authorities found a gas leak after the collapse, and they say there have been complaints from residents about the structural integrity of the building.
We issued notice and orders to have those repaired. The building owner hired their own engineering firm to direct them, and the repairs needed to be made.
County officials say nearly 20 permits were filed last year for building repairs, mainly for plumbing or electrical issues. Roxana Saberi, CBS News.
Officials at the scene revealed that earlier this week work had begun on the complex and there were reports of bricks falling from the building.
We're still watching out for a few showers across the mountains on your Memorial Day evening. As you can see, most of us are dry right now, but a few spotty sprinkles over portions of Buchanan County, Virginia at this hour. But for most of us, we stay dry as we go into this evening. We still have a flood warning for portions of Buchanan County until 9 p.m. tonight for some heavier rainfall earlier this morning. But really no issues are expected for the rest of the region as we go into this evening. Those temperatures really all over the board, upper 50s, lower 60s in the Big Sandy, in the middle to upper 60s for the Kentucky River Valley, and the middle to upper 70s as we get into the Cumberland Valley. 75 in Somerset, 76 in Irvine, 66 over in Jackson, down to 59 right now over in Wise, Virginia at this hour. If you have any plans to fire up the grill on your Memorial Day, temperatures stay in the upper 60s and lower 70s. Watching out for possibly a stray shower. Most of us are dry though, but that summer heat is not far away. All those details coming up in just a few minutes. Olivia?
All right, thank you, Cameron. Now that the White House and House Republican leadership have reached a compromise to raise the debt ceiling and avoid a damaging government default, the big question now is whether there are enough votes for the bipartisan bill to pass. CBS's Natalie Brand has the latest from Capitol Hill.
With a debt ceiling deal in place, the next hurdle for House Speaker Kevin McCarthy remains shoring up support.
It's not 100% what everybody wants, but when you look, the country is going to be stronger.
President Biden expressed.
I feel very good about it. I've spoken to a number of the members.
The bill would lift the debt ceiling for the next 2 years. It would keep non-defense spending at roughly the same levels through 2024, but would prevent cuts to Social Security and Medicare, as well as the military and veterans programs. It also claws back some new funding for the IRS, as well as unspent money from COVID relief funds. It would loosen some environmental rules for new energy projects and would temporarily add work requirements for some receiving social safety net programs, including food stamps.
Terrible policy. Absolutely terrible.
While some progressive Democrats and conservative Republicans are already pushing back against the bill, party leaders are sounding hopeful enough members will vote in favor.
A bipartisan resolution was the only way forward.
The first test will be a Rules Committee hearing in the House Tuesday. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
If it gets through the Rules Committee, a full House vote is expected Wednesday. Lawmakers face a June 5th deadline to get the legislation passed. That's when the Treasury says the U.S. would risk a debt default. Russia has issued an arrest warrant for Senator Lindsey Graham, and he says he will wear it like a badge of honor. Russian state media reports the South Carolina senator is on Moscow's wanted list for what he talked about with the Ukrainian president. In an edited video, Graham says, quote, "The Russians are dying," and the U.S. has, quote, "never spent money so successfully." But the full video shows those statements were not adjacent. Senator Graham says knowing his commitment to Ukraine has drawn the rage of Russian President Vladimir Putin brings him great joy. Graham says he'd submit himself to the International Criminal Court if Russian leaders would as well. The ICC has issued an arrest warrant for Putin. Today, the nation pauses to remember the brave Americans who gave their lives defending our freedom. CBS's Astrid Martinez reports from the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum in New York.
In all 50 states and the nation's capital, America is honoring those who made the ultimate sacrifice this Memorial Day.
It's not about barbecues. You know, it's about the men and women who fought really hard for our country.
President Biden laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier in Arlington National Cemetery.
Today, it's on all of us, to ensure that sacrifice was not in vain.
A crowd gathered aboard the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum in New York to honor the fallen. Navy veteran Dennis Higgins was 21 years old when he served his country in Vietnam.
Though steadfast, deserve a prayer.
Ralph Slane was a crew member on the Intrepid.
We lost crew members that were buried at sea, so there's a special reverence that you feel when you board the ship.
Keeping the Intrepid company this week are active ships docked along the New York City West Side for Fleet Week, showing visitors what service looks like.
I hope that she sees that, these are the people who keep us safe.
And a long-awaited homecoming befitting a fallen hero. The remains of a Georgia soldier lost in the Korean War and later identified through DNA were finally laid to rest.
Thank you for your service.
Even decades later, a nation never forgets. Astrid Martinez, CBS News, New York.
The USAA pays tribute this Memorial Day weekend with a Poppy Wall of Honor in Washington, D.C. 645,000 synthetic poppies cover a 9-foot-tall, 133-foot-wide wall. There is a flower for every fallen service member since World War I. On the other side, information about every conflict since the First World War. The USAA created the exhibit in 2016 to make sure the country remembers the true meaning of Memorial Day. This year, a panel was added to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. There's also a hashtag connecting Americans honoring the heroes. The Wall of Honor is a Memorial Day tradition that reminds Americans of the people who have kept our country free. Gas prices are not up very much on this Memorial Day, and neither are foods like hot dogs or hamburgers. But some items have gone up more than usual, and this year that's condiments. Data Assembly says the price of a bottle of ketchup is up nearly 28% from last year. Mustard is about 13% pricier. That's a lot more than inflation. So why is that? Experts say producers are still struggling with increasing prices on condiments like sugar and wheat used in their products.